So, hello. So, today I'd like to take a look at some books that I've got and a letter, which I hope I can get out of its envelope. Well, years and years ago, I was in a place called Żagań in Poland, visiting the former site of Stalag Luft 3, which was a prison camp for British airmen that were captured by the Germans, obviously, after they were shot down. And to my amazement, I just clashed with the 24th of March Great Escape. Okay, start again. On the 24th of March in 1943, or was it 44? 76 or 7 airmen escaped through a great big tunnel called Tunnel Harry, and they effectively escaped. Well, from the prison camp. They'd taken months to dig this darn thing under the control of a chap who was codenamed Big X, whose name was Roger Joyce Bushell. He was a South African pilot fighting for the British, obviously. And well, there he was, you know. And there's Jimmy James. Jimmy is not his real name. His real name is Bertram Arthur James. He was born in India. He was the son of a tea planter, and he was effectively inducted into the Royal Air Force at quite an early age. Well, there's Roger Bushell. There's Roger Bushell as well. I've got to be careful with these books. And they were quite the cards, these people, I can tell you. Quite the cards. They were arch escapers. And they effectively just would not give up. There's the tunnel that I'm talking about. Tunnel Harry, that was many metres below the ground, that they dug in secrecy. And well, there's a movie, The Great Escape. I've never understood why they've not remade that movie. I suppose it would just be too expensive, perhaps, to create all the. But who knows why? Perhaps it's not politically correct, is it? To be honest with you, I'm about as fucking politically correct as a shit and a fart in a swimming pool. And I couldn't give a flying, C-letter word for anyone that says any different. Because these boys, they did their jobs, and they effectively made my life not miserable. But so the Bertram James wrote this book. B.A. James, Bertram Arthur James, Jimmy. They called him Jimmy James because Jimmy James was a comic of the day. There's Jimmy. There's my Jimmy. And guess who you're named after, isn't it? It isn't that strange? But basically, Jimmy, well, Madge was his wife, and Patrick was his son, who sadly predeceased him, which was terrible. So if you need a copy of the book, there you go. There you are. Obviously, mine's as cheapskate as it can be. So there's Jimmy as a young man in a Hawker Hart, when he was obviously training to be an officer in the Royal Air Force. And there he is there in his number 11 OTU, which is Operational Training Unit, in 1940. And there he is. Well, that's his bomber. It was a medium-range bomber, a Wellington. They used to nickname them the Wimpy. They were the mainstay of the RAF bombing campaign in the first periods of the Second World War. They were sadly notoriously unreliable. And only having twin engines, with one of them buggered up, it was like a real sort of hassle. I can't tell you because what would I know? But this is sort of like a typical prison barrack block. So Jimmy eventually gets shot down, or his plane just dies on him. One of the two, and he ends up, I think, in Holland. And he tries to escape and evade, but he's badly injured his ankle. parachuting out of the aircraft, and eventually he gets recaptured. So that's pretty much an oversight of Stalag Luft 3, an aerial view of the Stammlager. Stalag means Stammlager. Luft means airman, and 3 was obviously the denotation of it. And that was in 1944. They were taking photos of it, and it just shows you an example of the tunnel, which was absolutely amazing. It was hidden under a stove, under a trap door of a stove, so that well, they weren't Wehrmacht actually. They were Luftwaffe. They were very decent as far as to be fair to them. The Luftwaffe prison guards, the German prison guards, the Air Force prison guards looked after them very well. Well, with the limited means they had, because everyone was starving Marvin. But that was the trapdoor. That was the tunnel entrance, and that was the tunnel. That was a trolley device that they'd invented to take out the sand, because it was built on sand to deliberately try and pervert the ability for airmen to escape, because obviously sand is very dangerous to dig under. So they used their bedboards from their beds to prop up the tunnel. That's Jimmy, obviously, and that's him later in 1946 marrying his absolutely gorgeous wife Madge, sorry, and well, what a lovely couple, and that's him as an old man visiting a concentration camp where he was taken to eventually, because they, as I say, he kept escaping, and eventually they chucked him into Sachsenhausen concentration camp, where he dug out and tunnelled out of. I can tell you, I'm not making it. You can't make this shit up. I can tell you, this bloke was an absolute determined rabbit. There was no way he was going to take anything from people he didn't like. Anyway, I met him, as I said, and I had quite the rapport. And in those days, I used to live in a place called Mishwakowice. You can have my address because it's not the current one, so bugger off. But I struck up a rapport with him. Well, it was, as I say, in 2004, so a long time ago, 20 years ago now. And, well, if you can imagine, he actually speaks with a posher accent than me. He's got a typical RAF voice, you know, brought Charlie Hove, you know, left on the wing. I'm not taking the mickey because he was a lovely chap, but he's gone long dead now, so I can tell you I don't mind releasing these addresses. But I wrote him a letter because we, as I say, we met and we shook hands. We had a long conversation, about 40 minutes worth, because I was fascinated by the chap. And so he's written to me. Well, you can read it for yourself. I won't bore you, but, with reading it out to you like a child sort of thing. You don't need to do that. It's a long letter, mind you all. But the greatest thing that I took on board about Mr. Jimmy James was that he was so humble, and he just did not ever. Although he was an exceptional character, I doubt I'd ever meet anybody like him ever again, to be honest with you. He was just continuously humble, and well, an absolute superhero, put it that way, without a cape. And that was another thing he sent me some years later on. But well, I was married to Joanna at the time, obviously, but I used to write him all the time because I just was fascinated with the guy. I just thought he was just absolute bloody superhero. How on earth, how do they make these people? But I've got a copy of his book, first edition, which my dad very kindly bought for me. Learning about what had gone on. That I don't want to take out the plastic if you don't mind. But it is the same book here. It's the same darn book that's here. His original book, One Man's Struggle for Freedom. You can say that again. But yes, I mean, awesome, absolutely awesome. Just escaped out of anything. Just couldn't keep him. I mean, there's no way he was going to be kept. But what does it say here? Let's read this out. Like moths which in the night flutter towards a light, dawn to their fiery doom, flying and dying, so to their death still throng, blind dazzled borne along, ceaselessly all those multitudes wild flying. Well, that pretty, I suppose, in a way explains the what was going on at the time. And the book starts with the parachute opened with the crack, pulling me out of my terminal velocity dive with a jerk. Obviously, he was bailing out of a broken aircraft, which is the last thing you want to do. Over Holland, the stricken Wellington and the Wimpy bomber that he was in. An amazing man. I'm just trying to find the ISBN. I hope I've probably given it to you already. Have I? I don't know. If not, then it's not here, is it? Where's the ISBN number? It's all sorts of prologues and stuff. Okay, let's make it easy for myself because I'm an absolute half-witted sod these days. I couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery, unfortunately. There you go. That's another one, good one. And fear not them which kill the body and are not able to kill the soul. Well, there you go. Enough said. But there's a copy of a later edition book. So there's the ISBN there. You can, if you want a copy of the later one. And obviously, if you Google it, you'll find what you want. Anyway, there's Jimmy. I'll leave you on that. It's going on now, but I'll leave you on there. But I just was amazed by this chap. And this is a sort of a follow-on to my mum's cousin, the pilot, the fighter pilot, who was another hero in my mind. I mean, he didn't live very long. Luckily, Jimmy did. He survived the war, and he died aged about 92 or 93. I think this the last time I wrote to him was when, and the last contact that I had, he was very ill, and he told me he was very ill. I used to call him on the phone as well, and he told me he was very, very sick, and I said, I'm so sorry. And when I rang again, there was no answer, so I presume, Googling it, I know that he passed away, bless him. But hats off to you, sir. Bloody hats off, mate. They don't make them like they used to, do they? Anyway, blessings, all the very best wishes. Cheers.